All right, so infrastructure, innovation, and the digital economy. This is a panel to end not just the session, but our peering forum. And we're going to try in this conversation to tie together all of the strands that have been presented over the last 2 days. And it's interactive, so I'm going to have the panelists first introduce themselves so you get a sense of who's up here. And then we'll start our conversation. So from the left.
Yes, thank you. Thank you much. I'm following in from a director. I'm Leonardo Ladeira, Policy Advisor at the Bureau of Telecommunications. My apologies for my boss. He could not make it, so I'm following in last minute.
My name is Wouter, Stemballet.
My name is Bryan Yrasquin. I'm the managing partner of Ernst & Young in the Dutch Caribbean, and I help the Minister of Economic Development with the implementation of more innovation and export in the economy.
My name is Witteman. I'm the CEO of AMS-IX, but I'm also on the Amsterdam Economic Board, and I think that's more important for this discussion here.
Okay, my name is Yvonne, and I'm from Caribbean Apps.
So there you have your panelists. And you get the sense that we have a platform here for a discussion that can be very broad range, wide ranging. And so I want to start with that, this issue of a digital economy, and just get some comments from you on the most critical aspects of the digital economy for the Caribbean region as you see it. What are some of the, I'm going to make it broad so that each of you can take a different part of it. What are some of the challenges that are faced, but more than that, what are some of the opportunities that we can seize as we start to link together infrastructure with this notion of new services and local economic growth and activity? Who's going to kick it off for me? 3 mics, 5 presenters. Fight. Yeah, just press the button once and it turns yellow.
Okay. Well, one of the challenges that we run into is the lack of knowledge by my clients, or that I need to make my profit, is that they don't realize yet the value of being on an app, and because I think this is the way, you have to add this to your marketing strategy. And one other thing that we are facing as well is by implementing a new booking system so people can book online, is that the banks on Curaçao are not that far, so we don't have a PayPal or an Ideal. And those are the things, Wouter already mentioned it as well, that we are facing as one of the challenges.
From our perspective, digitalization of the economies, what we see in the Dutch Caribbean and in the Caribbean in general, is the island mentality. And we still need to change the mindset more to accept that the world is flat and there's much more possibilities nowadays, and stop thinking in islands, our markets, our islands, our neighbors. We need to, the mindset is the most important one, and that you see in everything. Also in governments, ministries working apart instead of working together. It's the whole technology is about making communication easier, but in practice, people are still communicating. They all have their mobile phones and all these things, but the new generation, let's say the generation, what's it today, Generation Z or millennials, they communicate differently, but our structures in governments and our islands are still not, they're not adapting quick enough. So you have, when you were talking about innovation and taking your island to the next level, you have all these ministries working besides each other, everyone doing a good job. but the operation went well, but the patient died. Kind of things you get because it's they're not optimizing the use of what's available.
I think we definitely have lots of challenges going around. Last week there was a presentation by Mr. Oswin Eleonora. He's working in the telecommunications field in the USA for the last couple of years. And one of those challenges he brought forward was the opportunities for entrepreneurships and startups to start growing their business. There's a lot of potential in our youth, but the problem is, from my perspective, is the part of collaboration. I see several people doing their own things, but I don't see many commitment of people working together. And I'm saying this not only on the level of the youngsters, of their entrepreneurships, but also at the government level and the institutional levels and other organizations. We have, I think, to bring a platform. Let me go some step forwards. And in September this year, we will be hosting a conference on smart cities, smart nations. And to my view, a good concept about starting talking about smart cities is to bring a platform in which all organizations can work together. And not only work together, but share data between each other. One of the big concepts after smart cities, smart nations, is the concept of big data, in which organizations talking about smart cities is to bring a platform in which all organizations can work together. And not only work together, but share data between each other. One of the big concepts after smart cities, smart nations, is the concept of big data, in which organizations, they can push their data into a platform and make the data open so other institutions and schools and universities and the government and everybody can use it. So I think that's the way we should start looking at things.
The digital infrastructure is obviously the basis for what you'll try to achieve. So that is something we all need to work on. But it's also a mindset, I think. So once the digital infrastructure is there, it doesn't stop. It's where you can start being creative. What can you do with it? How can you apply, well, your smart wallet and smart cities and iBeacons? How can you get information, share that amongst each other and make the best of it? So it's definitely a necessity, and that is a collaborative effort, as we've seen during the past 2 days. But putting that as the basis for creativity, that's the next step.
All right, so if I hear the panel correctly, and I think Bryan is on a very important point, the mentality issue is like the foundation layer in terms of actually being able to seize the opportunities of the digital age, if you will. But once you start focusing on the mentalities, you have very real, very tangible issues to confront as it relates to infrastructure. And infrastructure normally has a dollar tag associated with it, which for private sector investors anyways, most times say it is difficult in smaller economies to justify the cost of infrastructure investment because it's actually the same or very close to what it would be if you're in a larger market, but you don't have the benefit of the larger market returns for that same investment. How is that, how can that be dealt with in the Caribbean context, you think? Or can it be?
No.
I'm throwing it out to the panel, not to you specifically.
Let me start with this one and stay on the same note as my director stated yesterday. Yes, that's right. I think we should think about sharing infrastructure. Right now, it's basically in the Caribbean. You see all telecommunication operators. They have their own infrastructure and they deliver their own services. But we've seen everywhere around the world the transition it already took place many years ago, in which you separate the networks from the service provider. That way you create much more possibilities for newcomers, for entrepreneurships, for people with great ideas, because it has been very clear that the last couple of years that the big ideas, they don't come from the big operators. They come from the clever minds, from the youngsters in the universities, and they need a better way to facilitate their product, their service onto networks that has already been established by the big companies, and they need open access to get to the clients connected to those networks.
One thing you mentioned is that the youth is really important, and I totally agree, but one problem we have, or one challenge we have now on Curaçao, is that a lot of kids or youth or developers are going to, for example, Holland to study, or to America, and they don't come back, or they come back really late. I think when you can facilitate a way like education or whatever way, and you can get them back, or you can even make sure they don't go away because they see that it's also possible to have here. And I think really we have the companies here and the knowledge to do something with this. And I really hope that there can be something like that, and also that other, when they go to Holland or to America, that they see that they can come back to companies like ours and educate further there, so we can use that knowledge on the islands in the Caribbean and not.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
Amsterdam has seen that problem too, because it's very hard to align the public sector, the private sector, and the educational sector if you don't talk to each other. That's the aim of the Amsterdam Economic Board, is to bring those three groups together and create some common understanding. And you could apply the same here on the island. If you feel there is the need for a certain kind of education, bring that up in time, and create that educational part here. So if you want to build an app school, yeah, if you want to call it that, then you can do it here. You don't have to send people all the way back to the Netherlands to get their education and hope they get back. Because create something here, and I have the feeling that there's a lot of creativity here, and there is a need for such a thing. But if you're not aware, if the government is not aware that there's a need for that, how can they do it?
From my perspective, everything that's being said by my colleague panelists here is absolutely right. And where the world is going, one is, your question was more about the technological infrastructure, which indeed you can share on these things, but more importantly, from where I stand and how I look at it, is it's about fostering, creating entrepreneurship, enabling people to become entrepreneurs, and enabling startups to be successful, enabling the import of entrepreneurs, of the geniuses, let's say the whiz kids, making sure that they feel welcome and that they can come to our island, sit on the beach and develop some apps, let's say.
I think indeed that's a very interesting perspective which the panel brought forward. Everything starts with education, and I think we also have to start looking at the education and maybe bring a mind shift in educations, because the way our children are being taught today at school is the same philosophy as 30, 50 years ago. You see some digital classrooms, some laptops here and there, some tablets. But why not try something else? I can mention there's the Khan Academy. I know most people knows about the Khan Academy, how it started and how it worked out. But there was also another initiative, if I'm not mistaken, that came from West Coast, California, one of those counties there. They changed the whole philosophy of education, in which the students weren't given lessons at schools. They were taught to go home, and instead of doing homework, you go online and you get your educational material and you prepare yourself for the next day. So when you come in class the next day, then you go on and you make homeworks. And the teachers, they could monitor all those kids, their improvements. The kids that were having problems, they could have better attention on that specific problems, and the kids that did well on that specific subject, they could go on to the next subject. So I think there's place for a mind shift early on in our education system.
Yeah. And if you're wondering if we're still talking about infrastructure and innovation, we are. If you go back to that first point about the importance of a mentality shift, that nexus between education, the government, the private sector, and ensuring that there is a conversation that is ongoing is fundamental to even determining what are the new, evolved, more appropriate shapes for education. Now, from a private sector standpoint, and I am agreeing with you on the sharing is good and we need to do more of it, what kind of incentives do you think can be put forward to allow more established businesses to incubate, mentor, support emerging businesses in the region? Chamber of Commerce?
One of the initiatives that we are looking at is what they did in the United Kingdom. Like with technology, you look for proven technologies. So in the UK, when the financial crisis hit in 2008, they had a lot of youth unemployment, and they tried to find a way to engage them in the economy. So they invented something they call the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. I'm a tax advisor, so the word scheme doesn't sound nice in these days. So we're looking into something like a Seed Enterprise Investment Fund, which is basically a fund that is all private investors or just wealthy individuals. They get a tax benefit to put their capital in a fund. The fund basically puts the money available to startups, and you can also focus on certain areas, app developments or technological or other types of investments, startups. You focus by giving them the money. Oftentimes there's a disconnect for these startups to get the funds. They cannot get it at regular banks. So you need some sort of a venture capital funding, which is coming from this fund. And this fund, the difference with regular development banks is that they would provide the guidance also to these startups. This is a way to foster, to get more entrepreneurs, getting the youth involved in every new business has at least one employee. So that's the way of getting the youth from the streets, let's say, and educating them along the way with their startups, with professionals like my friend here, for instance, that could be involved in helping them with the knowledge that we already have on the islands.
From the part of Bureau of Telecommunications, we have a fund that we can spend every year in a specific ICT telecommunications project. The AMS-IX Caribbean project, which was before the Caribbean Internet Exchange, was also an initiative with the Bureau of Telecommunications with the specific funds we had available to foster this kind of developments in telecommunications. So we have funds available for that. We have a structure that organizations can go and make their petitions. We recently also worked together with our local university in a Cisco Academy project. So now they're deploying a Cisco training programs. We are also working with the local transportation company in Curacao to provide Wi-Fi in the buses. We have also already some of them riding along with Wi-Fi connectivity. And every year we have specific dedication for the budget on ICT initiatives.
All right, so before we open to the floor for questions, just one more on the issue of shared services, shared infrastructure. For a lot of these programs, a lot of the plans and strategies at the policy level, there's always a challenge in creating public awareness. Entrepreneurs don't know what facilities are available. The public may not know what opportunities are there. What are some of the things that you have seen or the recommendations you have for creating or raising that level of awareness? I've heard it said people hear better when they see. What are some of the things that can be projected to the public to allow them to understand the connection between the digital infrastructure, their innovation ambitions? And we know for most of the territories in the Caribbean, we don't have a challenge of creativity. What we have a challenge of is a challenge of realizing the potential of that creativity and the digital economy. What are some of the things that can be done to raise that awareness of the connection between these streams?
If I may, I can give you the Amsterdam situation where the Amsterdam Economic Board is really an advisory board to the mayor. The mayor had no feeling, he doesn't have the opportunity to talk to everybody, and so he gets his information through the civil servants, and that's filtered to their needs, typically, because, you know, it's their daily work. So he figured, how can I go around that and find out what's really happening in the market? So he created this Amsterdam Economic Board, said to the civil servants, you invite people from the private sector, from universities, multiple universities obviously, and put them in a room together. And that worked, because then we started talking, I have needs, and I see that the education for people that I need in my company are simply not there in Amsterdam. So we employ 20 nationalities, and we employ people from all around the world in Amsterdam, which is stupid, of course. I mean, there is a university. Why don't they provide that kind of education? If I need those people, and I see other companies wanting to hire similar people with a similar education. So no one knew before that. I mean, it's not up to me to pick up the phone and call the university and say, hey, I need such and such and such kind of people. But in this larger group, that worked. And I think it's not just me, but the understanding that people get for each other's needs and bring that as an advice to the mayor, that was a good way to start. So, yeah.
All right, so let's open for some comments. I know we have Barbados waiting, or is this your comment? Okay. Let me get the mic to you. I might need you to do some running with the mic.
I represent Stardew. It's a small, medium-sized enterprise. My name is Angelo Luidens. I like to comment on the aspect of changing mindset. It's, I sat with Bryan in a logistical work group, and one of the aspects we discussed many times was changing mindset. Without changing mindset, I'm a bit tired. We cannot get anywhere. We have the nicest infrastructure, but without that mindset change, that shift, we cannot do anything. And it starts with very basic fundamentally at education. Start developing the citizens for the future. We start with our kids. That doesn't mean we leave out us as grown-ups. Our grown-ups, our elders need to provide or be provided the access to the infrastructure, they can create content. They can also be content creators. They have a lot of knowledge. One aspect in changing mindset is that, and I'm going to talk locally, that we need to stop having a registry talk for the business community. I am an SME, and there is an SME association. The SME association should talk for the business community. And I mentioned the SME Association of Curaçao is 12,500 strong, registered at the registry indeed. It provides 55% of the jobs in Curaçao, and it makes 30% of the GDP in Curaçao. That's 5% less a few years ago, but with conferences like this, with the infrastructure and so forth, digitalizing, smart nations and so forth, SMEs can innovate and make it 35, 40, 50, 55 in the GDP. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leidens. Of course, it's very well known that SMEs are a big part of the economy of a nation. But very important for the economic sector is also to have insight in statistics, not only for ourselves, for the newcomers, but also for the international investors. So it has been a challenge to gather statistics. When I started as a policy advisor at the Bureau of Telecommunications, we hardly had any statistics, so I started a complete new program getting statistics from the providers about their telecommunications use, the amount of connections they have, the pricing, the traffic, the kind of internet traffic. I've been trying to collect those and publish those internationally with our counterparts, the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union. And because every year they also they publish their yearly of statistics report about all the international markets. But it goes further than that. There's other ICT statistics that we have to know that we would like to benchmark with our peers, like the ICT Development Index, the ICT Price Basket, and to know those kind of statistics. We're working now currently together with the Central Bureau of Statistics, because I know how many households are connected to the internet. I get that information from the providers, but I don't know the percentage of the population that's really using the internet. So those kind of things you need to work with the Central Bureau of Statistics, and we're working on that project now. Another example is how many computers, how many PCs is every house equipped with a PC? What is the digital literacy skills? So when you have all those kinds of information, you can combine them with certain indicators, and then you can benchmark your results with the region, and that gives you insight, give yourselves insight in where you stand at a particular point, but it also gives the international investors a view of the kind of economy they want to invest in or not.
Quick question, Niels again. For the two people, for the two people who have the apps, I want to actually ask what problems that you run into with hosting the apps locally, because that's one of the things, you know, the app is for Caribbean apps, but I want to ask, is it hosted here in Curaçao to where people need to come get their information here, or what problems that you run into in realizing that it's hosted here in Curaçao?
I don't think I understand you.
I'm asking where's the app at, the servers? Like where is it at? Is it located in Curaçao or in Holland?
No, the server is in Holland. Yeah.
So that's what I'm asking. Like, did you try to get it on the server here in Curaçao, or what can we do in the industry to facilitate an app builder or something like that? You know, what can we do?
Well, like I explained yesterday, it is when we started, when the idea was there, we looked around, but well, like mentioned here, there was a lack of experience, and when you find a developer, they like to host their the app on their server. So.
Yeah, and we're also not hosting in Curacao. We research as well, and we are also making websites locally for the government, for example. And then we use a party called Core. They deliver really good servers, but what we found, it's not really good adaptive to a certain situation. And there are a lot of things out there, like Amazon, like Google. What we're using right now, that's particularly for apps and for growing apps. We need to grow every day or week or month. So it has to auto-scale. All that sort of things are not available on the island right now. But when it would be really great, of course, because locally it would be really fast, and in the Caribbean as well. Now we have a CDN. I'm not into the basics, but I'm learning. And for us, it's working really well right now. So, but it's a really good thing.
Interesting statistics is that the Bureau of Telecommunications had a survey conducted, I think it's last year, which showed that about 95, for sure 90% of all our .cw domain names are hosted internationally and not local. And I think that it wouldn't surprise me if this would be the same in all the other Caribbean countries also. There's a market opportunity there, I believe. Claire, you had a question?
Hi, a comment, Claire Craig, a comment and then a question. It's really good to see the panel that was put together, the various stakeholders, because I think we need to have the conversation going among the various stakeholders. What my research showed was that we would not have had the IXPs in a number of these countries without the intervention or without the support of the regulator and the governments. My question then is, with respect to the innovation and creation of the digital economy, who do you see as one of the primary, or who are some of the stakeholders who need to take this to the next level so that we could get some of this innovation and creativity happening? And I believe that we need to get it started with our children. But I think that in the Caribbean, it's also very difficult for small businesses to get off the ground. Thank you.
I don't know. From my perspective, I run a business that sells services. So the main thing for us in our business is human resource management, HRM. I think our countries need to be managed with an from an HRM perspective. So what I mean is, of course, we need to invest in the education. You will not find someone that is against that. We need to do that. Only small problem with that is that it's about in 20 years, we will get the fruits of that investment. And we don't know what technology we will have in 20 years. So now we're using education system of 30 years ago. They will finish school in 20 years. So they will be like 50 years outdated when they come out. But I think we need to invest in a better education system. At the same time, while you're schooling these children, you need to have a recruiting policy to introduce entrepreneurs and innovative people in your economy. So it's all about recruiting and training your people. That's how these governments should approach it.
Yes, my name is Yamanika. I started 2 years ago with a concept I called the Caribbean Smart Nations, because I guess and I think that for us to be all separate small cities, we are nations on ourselves, and we should protect ourselves like smart nations. I believe that indeed education is very important. When it's not locally, if you cannot find it locally, you should import it. I also believe in a knowledge society, that you import knowledge migrants. You know, we could all go to each other, we're all smart enough here. But I believe that we should collaborate in those kind of big projects. They're bigger for our countries, but together we can make it work. And for me to get this thing running, I had to go abroad. I went to New York, presented there at a Caribbean trade event, and then people could react, and they were all very enthusiastic. But I still have to travel all these islands, and I'm happy that the government and also the Bureau is adopting this concept on their own way. But it's actually the entrepreneurs that should do it. You know, we should come with a concept. We should come like M6 is starting here in Curacao. They had infrastructure. Nobody was like waiting for them to come, but they did it. You know, somebody has to start with something. And if you don't start with it, you know, we could keep on talking and talking a lot, and we are losing. You know, it's nothing new. We all have solutions. We all have to connect those solutions to see, is it proven in your country, could be proven for me too. You know, so I guess that we have to educate, but we also have to educate our peers. I'm not talking only about the children. You know, we should be starting educating each other and sharing the data, sharing knowledge. That's my comment on that.
That's the shift of mindset. Huh? All the successful stories that you've heard in the last few days also, they're all about entrepreneurs taking initiative and making it happen. Oftentimes on our islands in the Caribbean, we often look to government to innovate. The governments are not good innovators. We don't need to wait for them to do something.
There was a small conversation I had with Nico last Monday, and he told me the same thing, and I thought it was perfectly stated. The entrepreneurs has to do it, but the government has to facilitate, and that's something we're missing right now.
Good afternoon. My name is David Maduro. Some of you know me with the company CXP. I don't want to call myself the only one in this industry. I would like to call myself the entrepreneur where you've been speaking about. Let me share a couple of words. I don't think the setup is wrong per se. I think what is wrong is there was never a setup done for Caribbean merchants in mind. This was probably set up just for Canada and the US. I'm not going to ask it or for a reaction, but how many of you agree, also in the internet business and the connectivity business, that this is the same thing? With banking, it's exactly the same. It's not just that you need an e-commerce license from the central bank, and that's in every single country. You need to go through the mindsets of the merchants. And once merchants start processing, if it's not in a different jurisdiction, then finally you can book success and then need to start going the hurdles of IT. Websites, firewalls, etc. What we do, and I heard I deal and PayPal, we deal every day with these kind of things. I was in Vegas about one and a half month ago. Spoke to 3 guys of PayPal. Every single person, as soon as I said the word car, I couldn't even finish Caribbean. Their eyes started rolling and they don't want to speak anymore. Because everybody thinks we're the central hub next to the Middle East or wherever else for terrorism, money laundering. I said think. because we can prove otherwise. And I think most of you also can do this. When we're all doing sound businesses and we all need to submit 40,000 pieces of documentation for legalization and everything else, at the end of the road, we all need each other to process with each other and help each other out. So everybody who needs help and out their frustration, you can, I've heard it. But I am here to help. And the Caribbean is here to help because that comment was of my main provider trying to open up 19 countries in the Caribbean to be processing with credit cards. And I'm waiting for 3 weeks already. This is for the BVIs, which needs to go to Canada. Don't ask me why. French side St. Martin, which goes to France, and Europe says, I don't know about it. People, the Caribbean is not knowledgeable in everybody's mind. Now, the Caribbean needs to show everybody what the Caribbean is all about. And I think this initiative with your conference is the stepping stone for this. But we got to let the world know where we are and who we are. Thank you.
There you go. I'm speaking now as a member of the SME Association. And to Ladera, a comment regarding statistics. As SME, we realize that, and it has a priority on our task to create or provide statistics of our SMEs, which is very important for the development of the SME sector. I'm also now switching hats to speak for the Barbados people. The first one, there's several. Shanice Waterman, Computer Science Society at University of West Indies, Cave Hill, a comment. Trying to get sectors to work together and to change the education seems like it will take a long time. A question, what would be the short-term plan for a business that digitizing against the challenge of the clients lagging in adopting the services, challenges to the infrastructure in terms of the digital payments, capacity to handle digital traffic, and national privacy and security concerns? That is a question. Okay, I can repeat it. What would be the short-term plan for a business digitizing against the challenge of the client lagging in adopting the services, challenges to the infrastructure in terms of digital payments, capacity to handle digital traffic, and national privacy and security concerns?
I have only one answer. Show the benefits.
Well answered. Thank you. Next question.
Yes, on behalf of the SME Association, we represent, like my colleague said, I'm the vice president, and we represent 98.5% of all businesses here in Curaçao. So that is huge. And yeah, we have a group, and I thank you, David Maduro. We already signed a contract to get those merchant subscriptions already running. So hopefully by end of the month, we will be able to provide all SMEs with that, with eventually a merchant account. So we really working very hard. We also, and I wanted to address to Wouter, as the association, we signed also collaboration accounts with MKB Nederland and also a copy with Colombia. So with 6 million SMEs involved in the Colombian market. So with your products and your innovation, we will be able to be the stepping stone and provide a platform for all the businesses to come together. And also I'm a member for the Stakeholders Committee for Caribbean Overseas Territory. It's an EU program. On a monthly basis, we are actually traveling around the Caribbean, Turks and Caicos is involved, Cayman Islands, and Barts, etc., talking those commonalities of all issues we're encountering, etc. So, yeah, we are working very hard. It's only we're not bundling as yet, so we need to be very proactive. And I also want to comment something with the university. We are starting a campaign. We decided it yesterday to be able to provide every SME a .cw. So once they are a SME associate, so our aim is to get every company connected by end of 2017. So it's nice to have the good infrastructure, but if the unconnected are not connected, we are not be able to provide new apps and innovation, etc. So our first step is to get the unconnected connected. That is what I wanted to comment.
That's very good, and it shows that link between the infrastructure being laid down and initiatives being taken to make those business connections possible. As we wrap up, I would like several themes emerged in the responses of the panelists, and I just want to give them the opportunity to give some closing remarks. One was the issue of the mentality. Second, education. Third, infrastructure sharing. I think related to that was a third point, 5, knowledge sharing, being aware of what's happening between the territories and also within country. Panelists, could you give us your final remarks as we bring this session to a close? Share any perspectives related to the subject that you wish, starting on this end, coming forward.
Shall I start?
You have the mic.
The only thing I want to address is when I talked about education, I not only meant education of youth, but most of all governments, trainings, and the end user, in my perspective, for the apps. So education is everywhere, and this is a great start, so thank you.
The only thing that I can add is there are no borders. The only borders we have are the borders we create in our minds. So
maybe, again, a more Dutch example, but we had a report written about the digital infrastructure in the Netherlands, and especially on the spin-off. The Dutch digital infrastructure, M6 is kind of in the heart of it, but if you look around it in the peripheral, there's 140,000 jobs in the Netherlands in the digital infrastructure environment. And that means that you look at the creative industry, but you also look at the Ubers and the Cisco's, etc. They choose for Amsterdam as their capital, as their headquarters, and that's good for the city. That's not a real promotional thing, but it's kind of an automatic spin-off, as we call it, of having a good infrastructure. And I think Curaçao is right on track on it. You know, the e-commerce park now, the new data center. I think the spirit is here. So.
Well, actually, I agree with all of you, but I'm sorry. Well, I think it's important. Was mentioned before, the cooperation between, between all parties involved. So.
I'm a true believer in a private-public partnership. I think together we can get things done. Obviously, we don't have to sit and wait for the government to do things, but I still think there's a huge task for the government. If we don't want them to come with initiatives, but still we don't want them to put barriers in place. So let's bring down the barriers so we can step over the barriers and work together and get things done.
Right. Thank you very much, panelists. Let's give them another round of applause just to close the session off. And I hope as they leave, I hope you realize this is not just an empty conversation. A number of the points raised, I was getting text messages that are already proving that these things provide specific policy ideas and directions to some of the member territories here for CARPIF and those tuned in listening to our webcast. So thank you very much for sharing your perspectives with us.